if you're going through a relationship and you are struggling, and I mean, you're really struggling, you're really wondering if it's the right fit for you, if this is your person, and you got all these questions. Can this person be the partner of my life? Can they be the parent to my kids? And you're really trying to observe their behaviors and find a match, and everything has to be externalized. You need them to prove to you they can be what you need them to be, and you find you're just getting more stressed about what is the right thing to do, and you guys have problems. Maybe you argue and you trigger each other, and I'm here to tell you that it's very relatable. I've been going through this massively in the past year, and I want to teach you kind of what I've learned coming through this process. And my relationship, things are really improving, but it was hard. It was really tough. We triggered each other in so many ways, and I thought I was quite aware through the process, but I realized, me trying to overly control these situations in the relationship and outcomes was just another form of protection. And, I'm here for you to ask yourself the question of, are you actually setting up the right foundation in your relationship by trying to overly control it from a place of protection and fear? Because when you approach things from this place of fear and control, you typically tend to recreate the circumstances that trigger your deep wounding around relationships. And that's exactly what was happening with me. For example, same thing, future pacing way too much. Is this the mother of my children? The way that she is right now, can I see this being, what I need her to be for me? And I really realized going through these moments where, we've almost broken up several times, and you hear everything from the people around you. This person's not good for you. You've been a shell of yourself, and everyone's telling you to leave, but there's a part of yourself that says don't leave. And it doesn't matter what anyone says. There's just this piece of you keeping you in it. And this is happening with me as well. And I really found that all the fears I had within the relationship, when I was just honest and I really expressed myself on a really deep level, not only did I have a physical reaction, literally, like my whole system was releasing this charge. I felt so much light running through my system, just tingling through my arms, like I could breathe for the first time. And this was on the day that we were actually going to separate. And I was like, fuck it, if we're going to separate, I'm just going to lay it on you and tell you how it is, what I'm really feeling on a deep level, not a reactive level, but a really honest, vulnerable place. And it was only when I was able to do that she could really see me for who I was, and recognize her fears, and how she was showing up in the relationship was just a reflection of herself too. And literally ever since that moment, things have been so much better. There was a part of me that was like, wait a second, rather than just ejecting, because there's a part of me that felt, well, if I just eject, I'm just ignoring my problem too here, Sure, from the external, patterns that have been playing out in the relationship look really bad, and it doesn't look sustainable because it's not, but why are these patterns playing out? And also, what's my part in this? I think it's very easy for people to externalize and say, well, it's their fault, this person's not good for you. When in reality, you called this person in. There's a part of you that's actually, responsible for this dynamic. And when I really realized that, rather than just ending it and going, well, you're not good for me, and not taking accountability, it was just like, well, what if, just a thought experiment, I could be so brutally honest with you, even with my deep, dark thoughts, my deep fears, of us not being the right fit, of, all these things. What if I could be so brutally honest with you, and we could just learn to express our truth so freely, Could we still be there for each other through those times where we've just got nothing left to lose? So when both of you guys can get to a point where you're so willing to just admit everything, your absolute truth, your fears, and you let go of this need for the relationship to work because of whatever reasons you tell yourself, it actually creates the space to test if the relationship was really meant to happen. Because we're oftentimes trying to force a relationship to work by only showing sides of ourselves that will create a positive response. But in reality, you're neglecting a part of yourself by doing this. And when you neglect part of who you are, and you're killing that side of yourself in the relationship, and you're only showing 70%, you're actually destroying the dynamic of the relationship, and you're building off of a unstable foundation because it's not a true representation of who you really are. So you're building something from an unstable foundation. And that was the biggest learning for me, which is like, well, you know, you have to be willing to lose this relationship every step of the way for yourself. You have to be so supportive of showing up 100% as who you are, and willing to allow the other person to make a decision on if they still want to stay with you despite the fact. And it's the same way around as well. They have to have the same courage to lose you to express their truth. And both of you guys need to create an environment to where you're really willing to be open and not be reactive, but to actually lead with your true, honest feelings about things. Not from a place of, you make me feel this, and no, just from a place of, hey, you know, when we go through these things and these things happen, this is really how I feel. You know, like taking ownership for your feeling, but not hiding the truth. This allows both of you to have the opportunity to deeply understand one another and decide together if you want to do this together. Do you guys really want to cooperate and make this work with this deeper understanding of who each other are? And if it's a yes, your relationship will deepen. And if it's a no, you will find out sooner than later whether to even waste your time anymore. You know, I was literally on the verge of just ending it in my relationship. And, you know, we're at the backyard, or front yard, if you will, and I'm literally about to walk out because we're kind of at a point where it's like, I think I need to leave, I think this isn't going to work anymore, purely because of just the overwhelm in my head of, you know, people say this and this, you know, this logically isn't right, but ignoring my actual intuition of like, wait a second, Will, you're avoiding the pain associated with this relationship. And the pain is there for a reason. It's self-inflicted. It's not that the other person, you know, can't do things that bother you, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for how you respond to things. So I was very aware that despite how bad things look on the outside, you know, I am still defensive and showing up in a way that is reactive and negative. And so if I am deciding from this place, I'm going to continue to create circumstances where I feel this way, you know, and these things are happening. And so literally in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to run away from the pain. You know, this is not even about should the relationship continue at this point. The question is, can we be compatible with genuinely who we are? Can we actually be compatible with who we really are? You know, if we were to actually have an open foundation here, can we work in that premise and context? Not the fake one where we're pretending everything's okay and everyone's sensitive when you say something, but actually going, hey babe, I actually feel this way and I've got this fear, and that's why I'm not affectionate all the time, because there's a part of me that feels really unseen, and I feel like I've lost touch with myself. I find it really hard to give you love when I can't even love myself. And you go, oh shit, wow, you know, didn't know that was happening. And that's where, you know, you can really create a space for open conversations to work through things together, because you're understanding each other and realizing that things aren't as personal as you thought it was. It was just quite reflective of an internal state that needed to improve. And literally ever since that day, you know, where I had that conversation, it's like things have just cracked open. We're all of a sudden so supportive, you know, after 3 months of just arguments and, you know, offense and it should be this and it should be that, just trying to grab and control. You know, I fully gave myself permission to let go of what other people thought, if this was the right relationship, let go of comparing, you know, let go of how the relationship needed to be. Do we need to be long-term? You know, all these things, just literally letting go of the need for it to be anything, which allows the space to show up as who you really are, and to then see if you guys are willing to even build something with a strong foundation. But that takes two of you to be honest. And rather than externalizing and blaming, you should ask yourself, how am I showing up in a way that is helping create this dynamic? And in my context, I was not speaking up. I was allowing things to play out. I was not being vulnerable and honest, and I was being defensive. I was logically knowing dynamics that were playing out. That's great. But actually not having, the level of vulnerability to just actually express deeply what I was feeling. Even the things that I was afraid of saying, because I was scared that she would leave if I said that thing. And the reality is like the love that we had for each other is strong enough for us to stay despite the fears, because we're trusting that if it is something we genuinely want to connect on, we can't lose each other by expressing our truth. And that's my message for you today, is you got to express your truth as deeply as possible, not from a reactive place, but from a genuine, vulnerable place, being willing to literally break down in front of your partner if you need to. I've done it several times, just genuinely just fucking letting it out, letting yourself feel, and creating the space to actually show that to one another. That's how you build a really strong foundation. And so I want to share that with you today, because I think nowadays people are so controlling in relationships. They're just really holding on to outcomes, when in reality, you haven't even created an opportunity to connect on a fundamental level of who each other are. You haven't even connected with yourself, and you're trying to determine, a outcome of a relationship with someone else. You haven't even created a relationship with you on a level that you could. And so if you haven't learned to do that, don't even expect this thing to flourish, because you're not acknowledging yourself. And this is why there's so many relationship problems nowadays, is because everyone is trying to get someone else to fulfill something within them. And no one can do that for you except for you. And so you need to fill your cup first, voice yourself, and stick to your guns of really what's important to you, and allow people to make a decision if they like that, or if they want to, exit from that dynamic. And it's the same way the other way around. You have to be willing to hear other people too, and their truths, and see if that's something that you would like to also, participate in as well. And that's where the agreements are made. But you need to do that first, before you're talking about marriage and babies and all these things, when both of you are still fear-based. It's just not going to work. It's going to be problematic. And I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but it will be problematic if you avoid these things. So that's my message. Really make sure that you are honoring yourself, because you will not be able to build anything fruitful if you can't own who you are within a relationship, or just in life in general. A lot of people are good when they're single because they don't have someone triggering the fuck out of them. So relationships, the way I see it, are a great opportunity for you to learn more about yourself and create something beautiful, that starts with you. And then everything else is an extension. The relationship is an extension of you. So I hope that helps in some type of way for you. My name is William Gill, and I'm just sharing simply experiences I've gone through that I feel valuable, because I think nowadays relationships is a sore spot for everyone, including myself. And I see the light. The more that I'm extremely honest and vulnerable, I really see the light of how true relationships are built. And it takes courage and vulnerability and a lot of letting go. So